As an ESL teacher or ESL trainer, how do you get your students into learning mood or studies mood? Ladies and gents, welcome to the first time ESL teacher podcast on Vibes with Pet. I am Petrol, a certified ESL trainer. On today's topic, we will be discussing a part of an ESL lesson plan, which most teachers are not aware of. Either they do not know, like they've never heard about it, or they simply do not include it, although they might know, or they're simply very nervous when they get into the classroom and they tend to skip it or they tend to proceed with their lessons without handling this part. If you happen to observe a demo lesson or attend an ESL teacher's class, it could be a new teacher or sometimes a veteran teacher, you would realize that not everybody knows that there is a part of a lesson plan which is called the lead in. Yes, lead in is different from warm up. Most teachers, after warm up, dive straight into teaching the vocabulary, but they do not know that there is a part of the lesson plan which is known as the lead-in. The lead-in comes after the warm-up. If you do a warm-up, for example, you're singing a song, you're saying a rhyme, you're reciting something, and then after that, you let your children sit down and you introduce the lead-in. Lead-in is a part of a lesson plan that has to do with children getting exposed to the major topic of the day, to the major vocabulary of the day, or it could be an aspect where you get to test students' vocabulary from your previous lesson by simply showing them a PPT about the lesson of the day, or showing them a video which has vocabulary related or sentences related to your major focus for the day. Leading could also be a free talk. You could have a free talk with your learners, which might involve the previous lessons. For example, if you previously taught about names, about the weather, about the days of the week, about feelings, about colors, you could involve your learners in a free talk where you ask them, like have a conversation about the weather, the names, the colors they like, the seasons, just free talk one by one. Let them talk. And when you do that every time, it becomes a tradition and the kids get to have a simple conversation with you before you begin your lesson. You could also have a free talk with them by simply asking them how they are feeling that day. And during this time, you can let the children interact among themselves. For example, if you guys are sitting in a circle or whatever form you've taken, you begin as a teacher to ask the student next to you, how are you doing today? How is the weather? Or you could say, how old are you? How old are you? What's your favorite color? And you could let that student answer you and turn to the student next to them and ask the same question. How is the weather today? How old are you? And that student answers and turns to the next one. And then the circle continues. They ask each other questions, they answer, turn to the next one, ask the same question, and it goes round and round until the last student gets to ask you, the teacher, the same question. If you practice that, you make that a tradition in your classes, very soon you will see that you get to communicate with the children very freely in English, and that makes understanding super, super easy. That makes teaching quite fun. That makes teaching quite relaxing, and that makes the students find your lessons very easy to assimilate because they get to chat with you and it helps to grow their confidence. If they get to answer some particular questions from you every day, the relationship between you and the students becomes very cordial, very smooth, and they now can trust you, because they know that they can have simple conversations with you. So guys, remember, the next time you get into the classroom, try to include lead-in into your lesson plan and come back to give your testimony. Ladies and gents, you're watching the First Time ESL Teacher podcast on Vibes with Pets, and remember, I am always here in case you need a trainer. I can actually do a demo for you about different parts of an ESL lesson plan that has to do with the warm-up, that has to do with the leading, that has to do with the body of the lesson, which is the vocabulary, which has to do with games, sentence practices. I can lead you into the conclusion, how you can end your lesson, how you can make your class very engaging. You need a coach? Call Pets. Stay tuned and see you in my next video.